So for this session, we're going to talk about ways that we can reach out and engage with app developers. There seems to be not really like a separation, but there's not real good communication. Like we're not bringing them in to be part of what we're doing. So I'd like to start going out and making the initial contact. So instead of waiting for them to come to us, we start going to them and saying, hey, we've got this great platform, we've got all these users, we've got this awesome developer portal and software center. Let's start getting you in. So I'd like to identify some ways that we can make sure we're doing that. David and I have already started putting a bunch of things on a Trello board, so as we see like OMG reporting, look at this cool Nitro note-taking app. Well, that's not in the software center, so it goes on our list to go find the developers and talk to them about getting it in.
Perhaps we can demo that later on.
The Trello?
Yeah, sure. Not right now, but
is it a public Trello board?
I don't know. I created it, and I'm not real familiar with Trello, so.
Generally, just have to add people.
Yeah, because I think it would be nice to make it open basically and let people suggest applications to applications or developers.
Can we make it so that people can like add cards but not move them? It's set up to track our progress as we communicate with them.
I don't think we can restrict it like that.
Okay.
I can check that.
We can perhaps have guidelines.
Yeah. Please don't say we've contacted people when we haven't, or we will lose our spot in the list and miss an opportunity. Okay, so.
Yeah, because I think it would be really useful to have community participation in that. But anyway, before we start, we can just demo it on the board. I mean. Does any of you guys have got any ideas which ways we could go, basically go after app developers or go after nice little apps that would be suitable for the ARB process? Like free software apps we're talking about. We're not talking about consumer apps, commercial applications right now. I don't know, any ideas?
I mean, I like what the consumer apps folks did in terms of they just started a spreadsheet of here's everything we can think of, and it's just very open-ended that anyone can just chuck it in.
So that's essentially what our Trello board is going to be. Yeah. We've got separate columns for need to contact, initiated contact, gotta reply, actively engaged, and then ending in got them through the ARB process and into the software center.
And I mean, I think the idea of just emailing them is fantastic. Like, from the app developers we've seen so far, the more personal our interaction with them is, the better the response we get. So, like, if they just get a bounce back from my apps, like an automated message, they don't really
like
engage.
The machine that's talking to them, right?
Yeah, but if they get a personal email, which we've done sometimes, they're like, those are the ones that they start replying to the email, and they start getting more and more engaged over time. And, some of them hop on the IRC channel, things like that. So.
Do you think it would help if we had some way of sharing contacts, like between us and the ARB? Of for this app, this is who we're talking to.
Yeah.
I probably put it on the Trello board if that's not a problem. Well, you don't necessarily want to put people's emails and stuff on.
You can put the Launchpad ID, which is public. And then you can get to the email if they've made it public.
What if they don't have a Launchpad ID?
At the point
once they've submitted, they will have a Launchpad ID.
Will it be Launchpad or just SSO?
I think that you have just SSO, because it often shows up as just like an ID user, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, if it says OpenID user and then a number, that means that they don't have a Launchpad profile.
All right.
I mean, one of the things I've wished for in my apps is if it would generate a page that says these are all the developers who have submitted or who have had apps published through my apps or something like that. So if
does my apps have that data in it somewhere that we can?
Well, I mean, the data's there. Like every every app that's ever been published has an author associated with it, has a developer associated with it.
I think it's just a matter of making it available through an API, even if it's not like a nice page. Perhaps like having an API might be a start.
Is
But
there a
that
bug to
wouldn't
get
you
that
the-
in my apps?
No.
We file it?
Sure.
Which one was that? Sorry, Mike.
Hmm?
Which one was that?
To get a list of developers who have been
Okay, yeah.
published in contacts.
But that doesn't solve your problem entirely, because there's also that period of time where they're just someone that you've reached out to.
Yeah,
Or,
you're right. Yeah,
but
well,
still,
doesn't
that's
count.
that right there would be really helpful. And maybe
Are you
just
Wender
have-
and Launchpad also?
Yeah. And then, oh no, I'm Allison.
Oh.
But then maybe you could just have Trello for the folks that are just initial contacts,
Mhm.
and not if they haven't actually gotten into the system yet with a submission or an accepted app.
Well, what we can do, and once, I mean, yeah, we can do that, and then once they're into the system, then update the contact data on the Trello board. Yeah.
All right.
Actually, Mike, shall we just show the Trello board? Or might keep some food for thought.
Yeah, no, it's just visible to inviting members if you wanted to do that.
The only reason why it's not public, if it's not, because we don't really know, is because
Yeah.
we've just started experimenting with this. I mean, this is something that we'd like to do next cycle, which
Yeah.
and we just put it together. Well, Mike put it together, like quite recently. I think it's just a matter of inviting new members, but
Here we go.
Yeah.
See if you can find it.
All right, so that'll let anybody see it.
Let me see if I can paste it on the notes.
There. You guys see that Trello board now?
Still says it's private. Upstream app developers.
I can see it. I think you need to have the full ID for the script one.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
You know, we might need to add a column or something in there for consumer apps handling it. So like Linux Tycoon, I know John Pugh's talking with him about getting that in. And since it'll be a commercial app, it's really going to be something that he's going to have to follow through with, not us.
So for some of these, stuff like GIMP 2.8, it's something you can't.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, there's the only reason I added GIMP 2.8
Yeah.
and it's not. Oh, I hadn't added the comments. I was having a chat with Mike the other night,
Yeah.
and the only reason I put it there is because it would be nice to have it in backports.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we're gonna. It's gonna be mostly stuff that goes through my apps, but we'll also use it if there's GIMP 2.8 is a pretty big step.
it
from-
wouldn't go through the
It's
apps.
also
2.6.
something that's already an update to something
Yeah,
already.
so we want to try and make sure that we're on top of that and get it available in backports.
Because I can imagine other packages like Novicat, not small.
Right, and actually move that because I talked to them. about it.
So basically, I mean, that's just to show the idea of having a
Yeah.
list of applications and basically making sure that they've got a point of contact and that we proactively engage with them.
Right.
So once they actively engage, just sort of encourage them to submit and then sort of point A or B to them.
Yeah, basically the idea here is to point them to my apps.
Yeah.
And then actually it would be transparent for the ARE. And
Yeah.
you just would see the submissions.
Yeah.
But it can be good to see some information that's gone on for
Yeah,
conversation, whatever.
definitely. So yeah, when I'm saying transparent,
Can
I'm
you,
not
can
saying
you add a card to that board right now?
Probably not, right.
I think only members.
Oh, you
Okay.
guys, an interesting question on IRC there. Basically, the gist of it is, I guess, what, how these sorts of things are going to interact with Debian.
Right. I mean, the idea here is. Right now. Make you feel like trash.
So, for free software, once it's packaged and everything for going through the ARB, it should be in pretty good shape to submit to Debian, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have all the packaging stuff ready, it builds it.
And in fact,
I don't know what
we
Debian.
get submissions that are too complicated for the ARB, we send them straight to Debian. There's been several cases where we actually helped them walk through the Debian process
Well,
instead of even bothering with the
How
ARB
does Debian
process.
feel about installing stuff to opt?
Oh, we don't. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You remove those fixes
Okay.
before it goes to Debian.
It just becomes a standard package.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some customizations for the ARB that you have to remove, but
Mhm.
otherwise the packaging is good Debian packaging
Okay.
as well.
Okay. So yeah, basically, our target audience is people who don't want to take the trouble to get it into Ubuntu universe. So that really kind of means that they're not going to take the trouble to make sure it passes the Debian standard.
I think the important thing to remember here is that we're not talking about, we're not, I mean, this is a separate process. We do send some packages to Debian or some apps to Debian, which we can handle because they're not qualified for what we want for the ARB or what we can process for the ARB. But this is a separate process. I mean, it's also all free software, and while in Ubuntu we should strive to share with Debian, app developers might not want their applications in Debian. They just want to get them into the Software Center.
Yeah.
I think that's the important point to
Well,
make.
and even more than that, we're only targeting very lightweight applications, and we're trying to get them published very quickly.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
trying to get them published we're trying to get to the place where it's like the Android
Yeah.
marketplace, and it's
So-
just you submit your app and get it in.
Right.
But we fully expect that if an app becomes really popular, it's proven really useful,
Mhm.
that they're actually going to want to get the broader distribution they would get from Debian.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like a
Yeah, we're not gonna
first stage,
try and
really
keep them out of
brilliant
Debian.
developers
I mean,
and
it-
kind of help them into the process.
Yeah.
For us, it would be better if they're in Debian.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we want to set as low a barrier to get them into Ubuntu as we can.
Yeah. And especially if they start being the kind of developer who's like, I want this app in every single release, and I want to make sure it's always in every single release,
Mhm.
then we're not really the right place for that.
Right.
At that point, you're like, okay, great, it's time to graduate to the next level. Let's get you up into Debian.
Right.
Then you know you're always in every release.
All right, so getting back on topic, what other ways can we find and engage with app developers?
Go to game conferences.
Game conferences.
There's a lot of Linux games. Thanks for the question, Bob. There's a lot of Linux games or games that are portable. You know, cute games. You know, anything that could run on Linux, and they may have absolutely no idea.
Right.
about-
So, in a previous session, we discussed because getting Canonical to fund flying people to game conferences is not very likely to happen. But we discussed producing ready-made material for local people who are going to go anyway
Yep.
to take with them. So I think that we'll add game conferences to our list of. But we may have to set up a process whereby people can go. We already have the conference packs if we've got like a table, but we may need a separate thing to say, hey, I'm going to this game developer conference. Can I have a stack of flyers to pass out?
Could you
And-
make those flyers maybe generic so that it also says, for example, well, we'd like educational apps.
Yeah, the flyer, from what we were talking about, the flyers would be more just highlighting what makes us a good platform, what makes us a good marketing channel. You know, we've got good tools, we've got a lot of users. You should really target Ubuntu. We're not really being specific on what apps we're going after, just highlighting what we offer to all app developers.
So when we have that material, make sure John Pugh has it, because he does get flown around to game conferences.
Yes.
So make sure he
We'll
gets
probably be
that.
working closely with the Pitkins group to develop that material.
Because we can recruit for both at the same time.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And then get it included in the standard Ubuntu conference packs that go out to locals.
Yes.
So that, you know, they have a little stack of flyers to go with all the other stuff, the swag and CDs and
Yeah.
everything else that just slips in with all of them.
Yeah.
I mentioned that could be useful at various programming conferences like PyCon. Example,
Yeah.
And any Linux conference.
Any Linux conference, even like it, you know, if somebody's going to Mac Expo and they say, hey, there's a cool Mac app, why don't we port it, you know, here's the information, you should port it to Ubuntu. There's 12 million users there who want this.
Yeah, I see Ubuntu booths everywhere, and I never see any information for app developers.
It's really, this is our first big push. Yeah, it would have been nice if we had been doing this for a while now, but we're really trying to get it going now.
Yeah, I've added a couple of links in places to find that. Now that Alison mentioned games, I think it might also be interesting to scan those for apps that we might want to get submitted soon.
Jonathan, are you guys actively reaching out to educational app developers to try and get them to submit apps?
We want to, because it's been on our to-do list for the last year and a half now, but it hasn't been quite high on our priority list. But now that we're interested in tablets as well, we kind of have to, because, well, having a tablet with no apps on it is kind of useless. So, like I mentioned in the other session, if we can get the typical HTML5, CSS kind of apps that you get many on Android and iOS, if we could let application developers know that, you know, they can port those apps over, and once we have multi-touch and things working in those kind of apps, I guess that should be really easy to port over.
All right, so I'm going to take a work item to make sure that you guys all have access to add and move cards on this Trello board, so that when you find somebody cool, you can put them on there. When you start engaging with them, you can move it through.
You just need like our email addresses to invite us.
Hmm?
We might be able to request membership once we're logged in. I don't remember how that works.
But yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to do a big push this release, but at the very least we're going to put our intentions out there and let people know that we want apps. And, we are going to do something, and maybe not for 12.10, but maybe 13.04 we'll have a good device out there that might get some good distribution, and if people get their apps in Ubuntu, it will be available for that device.
Yeah. And if we do it all in one place, we'll at least know who's talking to who.
What's their first point of contact? Like, let's say there's an app developer, he's at a game conference, you know, a local member hands him a flyer. What's the action item on that flyer? Does it say, join the Ubuntu app developers list?
That's a very good question. We didn't go into detail on what would be on the flyer.
I mean, if something would be, let me tackle the other end first. So if some, and I'm just speaking out of my mind right now. So the other end, if we've got the contact already, then I would, then it would be on the Trello board, and then either Mike or I would contact them. For flyers, I would try to keep it as low barriers as possible. So I would just point them to my apps, basically.
Definitely the developer portal and my apps.
Did you see the ones that the cloud people had? I guess they were at scale. They were like half sheets, and they were sort of cardstock. They were really nice. They were very simple. They were like a dark purple. Had like a paragraph and a couple of links. They were double-sided. They were really, really slick.
Yeah. Well, I know we've produced material like this before, so I would imagine a design team or somebody would be able to put it together if we could gather the information.
It would be great if there was one place to go for an app developer, because as an app developer, I have not really figured out how to get something into Ubuntu. And if I Google or something, there are about 7 different places and they're all different processes. So how do you pick one? How do you know?
Developers.ubuntu.com is what we want to make the place to go to get started.
So that's probably a good, like, just put that link there, or maybe even have a page that's get started that you point them to, like
there's a get started page on it.
Yeah.
Right now it's more just like a tutorial about quickly, so we might want to have something more about an overview of the process that they're going to get started on before we go into actually having them start coding.
I mean, it could be a different page, welcome, or it doesn't matter.
That's one thing that I noticed with a lot of the current developer resources is they're very focused on this new coding environment that they want you to set up. And a lot of these developers are entrenched in their ways and want to sort of move what they have over. And so quickly might seem, even though it's really simple and easy and awesome, it might seem a little overwhelming.
If you have your own app already, quickly is the wrong tool. To be interested in it, and it's kind of a turnout to have that be to get started. Because I feel like, this process isn't talking to me, it's talking to somebody else, and I should be somewhere, I should be looking at another page.
And percentage-wise, we really only get about 5% of the apps.
Yeah.
It's not the majority of submissions, so that tells you something about the audience.
Okay.
Well, especially
Do we have a
to target
specifically?
existing apps. Especially if you're going to target existing apps.
Yeah. Do we have sessions on the developer portal?
Yes, there is one.
Okay.
On Friday, I think it is, like improvements to the actual site. I mean, I didn't want to call it like redesign again because we
One
wanted to get
redesign
the-
is enough?
No, I mean there's room for lots of improvement, but I'm not sure how. I'm not sure about the schedule of the web design team, which are the people who are doing the actual
it's busy.
So what I'd like to focus is on areas in which we can make an impact in, like if we can make small changes to the site, then just go for them. Basically, not talking about redesign. And the source code for the site is also open source, so we could get community contributions too.
Yeah. Well, there's not much that would have to be done coding wise. It's going to be mostly content, I think.
Yeah, content and a bit. I mean, some of the pages are. Some of the things. I won't talk too much into it because I want to talk about it on Friday. But like things like adding the social media account buttons and things like that. These things need a bit of coding.
Yeah.
Because there are the pages where we would like to put them, like the front page, are like static pages.
Oh. Okay.
So the thing I would do right now, just going through the site real quickly, is if you have flyers like that, point them to developer.ubuntu.com/publish. Because that gives you the nice overview of how to get your app into Ubuntu. Whereas if you go to the front page, it says get started, and you go directly to a video of quickly and all of that.
That's
So
good stuff on
for this
film.
particular audience, the publish page is the right place to go.
Okay.
All right. So going back to this approach of using a board to track submissions and everything, I think there's two things that we could improve there, or we could build upon that process and make it a bit more structured and make it a bit more open to the community. The first thing is opening it up, which is already now open, which is now already open. The other thing we should probably do is to make an announcement that this board is available and that it should be open for contributions. But while we're doing that, we need some really brief documentation on the process, because as you were saying, we don't want like lots of people moving cards around, because otherwise it's confusing for the person who's doing the
Were you
content.
able to move them around or just view them?
I can try moving. I think if we just get added to the Ubuntu organization, Trevor, We should be able to.
Okay, I'll have to figure out how to do that.
I think
George is the Trello guy. He's all about it, so I'll figure it out with him.
probably need to track down George then.
Yeah. So.
They're not great.
So I think it might be a good idea to document how this is going to
Ubuntu
work.
members or just any Ubuntu users? How would we want to open that up?
In terms of the Ubuntu organization or the
I'm not sure.
Ask George what he wants to do.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter.
I mean, what I would do first, before opening it up to lots and lots of people, try to see how it works. Like adding the ARB, for example. I mean, these are people who they know what they're doing, and it's easy to add them.
Mm-hmm.
You could just add individual members. That's fine.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just do that. So,
But as I say, I think it's important to document the process to say, hey, it's fine to send your suggestions, add your cards, add your notes to the cards, but please don't move them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. So it might be worth having a wiki page or something like that to describe the process.
I think if we just add people to it kind of on request, I don't think there's going to be that many people.
That's
when I write about it, also, if you know of an app that should be on here, email either me or do we have an app developer mailing list? We do, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll put that on there and say, hey, if you know of a cool app or you have a cool app.
Yeah, but I think it needs to be documented, because otherwise you have to explain it every time to the person that you're adding. I mean, I like the idea of adding people on demand,
mm-hmm.
at least for the start. But,
okay.
But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to write a wiki page or something like that.
Okay. Yes, we know quickly is still broken. It's on somebody's list to fix. All right, so Karth. If you have the Etherpad open for this session, there's a link at the top. So Trello is a website where you can basically just track the progress of work. And we're going to be using that to track the progress of our communication with app developers.
Actually, that thing's broken. I just haven't known. Is that right?
Oh, is that because I changed the membership? Probably. Now the correct link is there. Any other ideas? I'm looking at you because
I missed the beginning half of the session, so I'm not 100% sure what we're covering.
just ways to reach out to app developers and get those conversations going, keep them going.
Is that what we talked about?
Yes. We went back to some of that, like conference flyers and stuff.
Yeah, and talking to people who do Q&A apps and otherwise, you talk about competition on the energy.
We haven't talked about that yet. So David and I were going to be holding some kind of like app developer competitions where there would be for a specific topic. Like we might have one contest where it's specifically make a game for Ubuntu. And we've talked to the ratings and reviews people about being able to add a badge to the winning app that says, this is a contest winner. So it's something to give a little more recognition to the people who win.
That's a good idea.
And motivate them to create something cool.
Would you have, like, open it up voting to the public? Like, say, here's all the submissions we got, and let people say which one they like the best?
The idea, there's something I started thinking about last cycle, and the initial idea was to try to use all of our infrastructure, which means opening to people for vote, and use the software center to do the voting. So then they could use the rating and review system. So that would be a nice way to get people to know about ratings and reviews, get more ratings and reviews, and and basically make the voting system more democratic.
So set it like a date and say we'll have a week after all these apps are published or whatever, and whichever has the highest rating on the last day is at midnight.
Right.
And then the beauty of that is that the people who make the game will go out and advertise Software Centre for you.
That's true, yeah. They'll
They'll
vote for my app.
They'll be attempting to get their users, their friends, everything to vote their app up. So like, the way you vote their app is this. And people go, oh wow, actually you're using Software Centre. So you're not doing all the marketing that app. Which is what I like to do.
Unless you be able to do the rating on apps that you'll be able to do the rating that on apps.ubuntu.com.
I'm not sure if it's working.
It's
I
not
think
working
only
yet.
works
That's a
on
feature for
Mac.
this segment, actually.
Something you haven't got on the list of games is games written in Flash. Because there are a shed load of them and they work on Ubuntu.
How long will they work on Ubuntu?
With non-free Flash, they work
Well,
really well.
Do they run well on the? Because there's two.
There's Lightspark.
Free Flash.
And there's
No,
Lightspark.
I'm saying with
and one that
non-free,
is-
they work well.
Yes, but non-free is going away.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's going away in
everything but Chrome.
Firefox. It's not going away in Chrome. Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying, this is definitely a thing you want to
Yeah,
pursue.
well, the standalone Flash player is going away too,
But,
isn't it?
but if you look at, but if you're looking for a community of people who are already building games and those things already work on them too, then something like Congregate has got like 45,000 Flash games.
Yeah.
And some rubbish, but some of them are almost exactly the equivalent of really popular things on mobile platforms, for example. So, and it probably wouldn't hurt to have someone fire up Lightspark and try and understand that. Maybe that's what we say, pursue people who have written Flash games which work on Lightspark and encourage them to package them up and get them to Software Centre. I don't know whether Lightspark is still getting developed. I don't know whether it can run in the window on its own or whether it only runs in the context of the workarounds or what, but it would be relatively trivial to put together like a Flash game run thing. And then you tell people, just take your Swift file and package it up. I mean, I wrote a flat quickly.
Or package me should be
if package me can take an existing Swift file and put it and the little runner thing which fires up Lightspark in a window and then loads it, and then get that into Software Centre. Potential tons of games there. I don't really know about the fact that the Swift file is a compiled library for which you don't have the source. And if you had the source, you could compile it anyway because you have to put Flash over here. But that sounds like a problem, which is not my problem.
Well, what that means is the ARB doesn't review it, but there's no reason the commercial side can't
And
review it.
some Flash stuff is doable to Flex, for example, is open source from runs on the two community compile games. So for things like Canabout, stuff like that.
what?
A game called Canabout, which was like on my iPhone, it started as a Flash game. And the guy wrote it with Flex. He got a logo called Flixon, which was the subtitle of Flex. And then he just ported Flixon to Objective-C in the iPhone, and linked with an iPhone version of the game. But if all that stuff works on Lightspark, then conceivably the community will build stuff with Flixon, things like that. Could be encouraged to make those things be essentially native apps on Ubuntu.
I've added a couple of places in which we can get we can get to find new apps to see. So we've been talking about games. I've added a couple of code hosting sites. It might be interesting to scan those for new apps and things like that. GitHub, that's a good one, yeah. And so if you've got any other ideas of places where we can get like online places right now. We've been talking about physical events, but I'd also like to think about places where we could just basically see feeds of new apps coming or things that we can check regularly.
Ubuntu, would it be worth talking to them and see if they'd be interested in having some of their authors?
Perhaps. Yeah. I think we've got it listed on one of our other ones, don't we? the Humble Bundle?
Where do we have this? Sorry.
We had it listed in one of our other sessions.
I can't remember. Anyway, I'll just add it to the notes.
One of the things that would help us with like the Humble Bundle is if we had a name your own price feature in the Software Centre. I know that's been requested more than once.
They have talked about it, yeah. It's sort of on the wish list, but not on the immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those things where you think, well, it's like one line of code, and then there's this massive infrastructural change behind it.
Yeah.
I have a question. We have computers that are Ubuntu certified, and now we have Jono's accomplishment system, but we don't have anything for applications, for application developers. So they could claim that they have application that is Ubuntu certified. Something like that would perhaps be a good idea.
I think being in the Software Centre is essentially, what do you mean by Ubuntu certified?
Well, that particular piece of software went through some tests, through some acceptance testing, and it's now certified for Ubuntu.
That's what we, in order to get into the Software Centre, you have to do that, and you can put the little available in Software Centre badge on your website or whatever.
If you're talking about
they
something
feel
that
that
says,
same
something that goes beyond, you know, this app runs and doesn't do bad things to your computer. If it's something like, this is a good note-taking app as opposed to a poor note-taking app.
No, this is actually in the app developers agreement already. In fact, what you get is the ability to say, my app is published in Ubuntu, and you can put the Ubuntu logo on, you know, like the same place that we put the Mac logo or the Windows logo, you can put the Ubuntu logo and say unpublished. It's not certification you have to avoid because of the legal connotations, but just saying unpublished.
But as far as judging the quality of something, that's what ratings and reviews is for. You know, if you go in there and something's got a whole bunch of one-star reviews, then you know it's not very good.
The type of people who care about certification will also not use the Profi system because it's using a big Oracle.
Yeah, certification is usually based around support, and since we're not selling support for these, then there's really not much that a certification would mean.
So that sparked another idea, which is he mentioned those accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Could we have an accomplishment for I published an app?
Can we, is there an API or something in my app that would tell us that?
It could be added. Or we could say, doesn't he have a way that you have someone who approves, like if you claim that you did something?
That's the plan. I don't think that's there.
We don't have human awarded achievements yet, but by definition you have an API. You just look at extra stuff, you look at
Yeah.
So when your app shows up.
Right, but we.
Fine, present.
I guess we could, we can check and see if it's in extras.
Yeah.
To say that.
Well, how do you know which app it is? I've claimed that I wrote great.
Yeah, so because the accomplishments of the people, your accomplishment will be I am maintaining the form.
Oh, you look at the maintainer.
Look at the presumably the
ARV packages have the Upstream authors maintainer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does their email address in that have to match their login email for SSO?
It doesn't have to. It's not guaranteed at this point.
So
but we could easily tell them, sorry, we can't make the automatic link because your email address is not right.
But
That's
realistically, the way the accomplishment stuff works, it asks you for your launchpad email, right? There's nothing stopping me lying and telling it I'm you, and then I get an accomplishment saying I've done a bug.
What I was thinking is, I'm an app developer, I got my thing into Software Centre, it's there, why don't I get this trophy? Well, it's because I use one email to log in and another email in my maintainer. But yeah, no, I know.
Could we break it down from there? Like say I submitted an app. My app was published. I reviewed an app.
We
I
can
tested
do
an app.
anything that we have an API to get information about.
screen.
Screen scraping makes a great API. It's easy.
Yeah. But they have to log in to see some of that, don't they?
I mean, depends on if the My Apps pages, review pages are public. So if you're screen scraping at the level of, yes, this person made a comment.
Does it have emails though?
At the moment, it doesn't even give people the right to public reviewers to make comments. That's one of the bugs we have. So it could easily say, so we do have to have a unique user ID or user name that shows up in the feedback list. They do have to be logged in before they can make a comment, or they will when the feature exists. So.
And that matches their Launchpad nickname, right? Or OpenID user something if they don't have one.
I don't know what they have it set up. I think they have right now real name with a link to their Launchpad account or something like that.
It has like SSO email ID. Just looking at it.
Whatever it is, it'll be scrapable. So that would be possible once the feature's there.
That may trail off involved in.
You could game the system though. Well, no, because they're only people who have permission as reviewers. It would only be ARB helpers who have access to make comments. So you're not going to have random people submitting spam just to up there, just to get badges or something like that. So that would be okay.
Would you like that work out?
Sure.
It's actually not that bad to write accomplishment.
It may not happen this cycle. It may happen next cycle. Like just looking at their plate. If we get ARB helper access to My Apps this cycle, that would be fantastic.
Okay. I know Jonna would be thrilled to have more accomplishments. So.
And the publishing an app one doesn't rely on new API in My Apps.
Right.
Just hit the app repository for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got five minutes. I think it would be interesting to tighten up what we can do with the Trello board that we've been showing earlier on, and especially trying to get more community participation. So let's have a look at the actions. Whether we can, is there anything else that we can add?
The work items.
Yeah.
So I've got to start adding people and then blog about it.
Do we have a work action? Oh yeah, announce the Trello board. Yeah.
What is apps to the list wanted apps? That one. Sorry. Oh, never mind.
It's the.
I thought it was a separate item. Just wrapping.
How about outreach to existing developers who have already published their apps? Is that because you could say, hey, you got your app published, you should think about giving talks at conferences about your app. Or if you have friends who are developers, you should think about reaching out to them.
Since we would specifically be wanting to talk about the My Apps process, it would be better once we get that list of developers who have published, we'll use that to reach out and follow up and get them to talk about it more.
Because I mean, in general, I feel like right now, like we aren't really following up with folks.
Yeah,
who have already
I've got
published much.
either David or I have a work item already to follow up with people who have been published and get feedback from them and try and get them to talk about it. Any other ideas before we end?
Alright, I'll take this one, that one, guidelines one.
Okay. Yeah.
An easier packaging guide linked prominently from the getting started packaging pages.
It's been written, but it's not.
Is that for specifically the opt packaging? Okay. So yeah, we will need to get that onto the developer portal.
Yeah, right now, if you click through and look for it, it takes several clicks, and eventually you get to the packaging guide, which is that one.
One of my work items this cycle is we're trying to get down to a single platform. So run this and you're done.
How many batteries are in this thing?
That may become easier if we can get that package me stuff.
In the directory of your source repository, you type pkgme package me, and you may have to type -- extras. We haven't decided that yet, but you may just have to type package me and be done.
A lot will depend on how your application is actually structured, as to how much yes.
Yeah, I mean, one problem I see with the packaging guides is it's very focused on complex apps. If your app becomes complicated, you can easily adapt with that packaging guide, but most people have very simple apps.
And what package me does is it assumes that if you're developing a specific kind of app or using a specific language and tool set, that your app needs to be packaged in a specific way. So like if you've got a Python app with a setup.py, it knows to look in setup.py and use that to figure out how to package it. If you've got, what's the other back in CMake, I think he said. So if it says CMake files, it knows how to use those to build a proper package. And we've got some other backends on the list that are coming for it. So it's really smart about how it does it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. All right.
Any final notes, or do you want to go to lunch already?
I'm ready for lunch, yeah.
I have one question which is sort of tangentially related. One of the things we've been carrying, I would say, is looking at put games in Software Centre or apps in Software Centre, and if you want to charge money for them and get cash. But you could also have apps which are ads supported.
Which do what?
Which are supported with ads.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
You know, little payment
Yeah,
function
yeah.
that might be going to get on mobile.
Yeah.
If I wrote that, do I send it to the ARB?
No.
It's all open source.
Oh, it's open source, then yes, it does to the ARB.
Even if it's got ads support. So it's still
Alice.
open money.
Actually, we've got one like that. I think it's the NovaPlay. What's it called?
Okay, so
we've got a
did
case
you
like
guys,
that.
you've heard this question. I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing in the policy that forbids that at all.
Right.
But
It won't go to Debian, I'm sure.
excuse me.
I said I'm sure that it won't get accepted into Debian.
It could. There's absolutely that shows ads, but nothing stops anyone from deciding that.
Absolutely.
But
Someone might decide to go for it and then recompile the app and do their own.
But the ARB is not going to do
we might. Nothing stops us from doing it. That's the other thing.
But you don't want to go in and start changing stuff like that on submitted apps.
But we can.
You can, yes, but there's no reason to use it.
But we always make sure we
So the question was, what if someone has an open source app that has ads in it? So I said, well, we don't have a policy that gives it, but nothing stops us legally from removing any ads from
In
open
fact,
source
our
app.
policy is that we can change things.
Yeah.
We can change anything. That's
Right.
explicitly
But-
stated in that.
But that's really more just to make it work, right? Not because you don't like a feature.
I'm going to say
But
patching
if-
stuff out.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can change anything, but what we
Yes.
actually do in that case is say, oh, this has ads in it, you need to go through the commercial channel.
What if it's
That
open
was
source?
that was the point of my
It doesn't
question.
matter if it's open source or not. If it has a commercial component, if it even connects to like a commercial service remotely, if it has any commercial component, it goes to a commercial channel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like we just don't mess with that.
So, is that in any documentation anywhere?
The-
Or do you think it'll come up enough to?
the reason I bring this up is that it may be easier to, well, at least in theory, if we had this conversation, I thought it may be easier to add adverts to your app to earn and get it than it would be to go through the whole handshake, I must sign a contract rubbish. But apparently it doesn't make any difference.
No,
Because I think because then you start reaching out to ad network.
it actually makes no difference because that whole contract thing is no longer a contract when you create an account on my apps. Your user agreement is just that. So you don't have to go and sign a separate contract in your commercial apps. It's just the user agreement. And we reviewed that pretty extensively for free software.
Because the reason I mention it is that there are ad networks out there, and there will be bunches of forums and things, people talking about how to use it and so on. saying, hey, you might have some pictures with this, that use this, but alert people to the idea that it's possible. Potentially another area, another way of touching stuff that developers need.
Do you know any of these networks?
The biggest ones?